Dave Parody here with another Slide Makeover video podcast based on the ideas in my book, The Visual Slide Revolution. Today's slide comes to us from one of the people who attended my public seminar last week and sent me this slide. Now, they are in the financial services arena, and this slide, what they're trying to communicate is that when we think about our retirement income, how much we have to save, it depends on how long we expect to be retired to be drawing on that particular amount of savings. And that definition has changed. That's what they're trying to communicate. The challenge with this slide is that they are trying to show proportional items in terms of the length of time that somebody is retired and having to draw on that income, but it's not being shown proportionally. You notice that the distance between the numbers in that two-headed yellow arrow are not actual proportional. So the distance between 62 and 65 is not proportional to the distance between 65 and 77. And so it becomes very hard for your audience to really understand how this is supposed to be interpreted and what the real differences are. Whenever you're showing proportional items, you need to be very careful about using a diagram because it needs to be accurately represented. So here's what I did to revise this slide. So the first thing I did is I gave it a better headline: more pressure on retirement income. People are retiring earlier and living longer. That's the real key message. Remember, the first step in the quick method that I talk about in the book is to write a headline that summarizes the point you're trying to make. So I started with a better headline, and then here's how I explained it. See, the traditional definition in the past of retirement was we retire at 65 and you die at 77. That was the life expectancy. So your retirement income only needed to last 12 years. But that's not today's reality. Today's reality is that people retire at 62 but die at 83 because we have longer life expectancies, and of course people have chosen or been forced to retire earlier. So that's the new reality, but it's not uncommon given that health, exercise, diet, that people could actually have a retirement of 27 years, retiring at 62 and passing away at 89. So that's not unusual. And in some cases, people may retire at 55 and live to 100. So their retirement could be 45 years long, which is more than the number of years they would have spent working. Now, how do you account for that when you're doing retirement planning? It's a totally different world than the old definition that we used to deal with. So notice what I've done here is I've created a visual that actually shows proportions. The timeline along the bottom is equally spaced, and the rectangles that represent the length of time that somebody's drawing on that retirement income are proportional. And now someone can take a look at the old definition of 12 years, if that's what they had been using to do their planning, and realize, my gosh, look at how much longer a reasonable expectation of 27 years is. So before we get to the lessons from this particular makeover, if you want to learn more about the book, go to www.visualsliderevolution.com. To learn more about my training, consulting, videos, other resources, go to my main website, www.ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. So our lessons today for comparing items that are proportional. First of all, it is very important that you have accuracy in your diagrams. So make sure that you have created a diagram that shows the true proportions, because otherwise you give a message that is potentially misleading and certainly easy to misinterpret. If you want to set the distances in a diagram to be equal, use the distribute feature in PowerPoint or other software. It makes it so much easier to make sure that those distances are equal. You'll notice in the original there were some items above and some items below. When you are making comparisons of proportional items, always make sure you put those items close to each other so people don't have to look very far to compare. They look side by side. Okay, easy. I can tell the difference between that because they're side by side. And finally, decide whether you need to build these items in either ascending or descending order based on their proportions. In my case, I went from the smallest to the largest because that's the point that they were making. In your particular circumstance, it may be different. When you're comparing items that are proportional, keep these lessons in mind so that you can communicate effectively when you're using PowerPoint. This has been Dave Parody with another Slide Makeover video podcast.